John in Chicago, you should be here now.
Hey, what's up, Matt? How's it going?
Good.
All right.
Yeah, interesting call. I kind of wanted to touch on your first topic about the woman being on life support and sustained that way.
Okay.
And I just kind of wanted to get your view on it because of our previous conversations. So is it your take exactly that it's wrong to keep a pregnant woman on life support even though she's with child? Well, you said fetus, as if it's not really a child going in there. So if it's going to sustain the life of the child but kill the mother, how do you justify taking her off life support when it could support the life of the child?
Because it's her body, and she asked not to be maintained on life support.
Yeah, one of the things that keeps coming up is this idea about persons and potential persons. And as I noted when I debated abortion at the Texas Free Thought Convention, I don't care about any of that. What I care about is bodily rights and bodily autonomy. And if it had been this woman's desire, keep this sack of meat alive to try to save my baby, then okay, that's her wishes. But her wishes were otherwise. And when we disrespect that, you asked why, do we have any justification to take her off life support? And my immediate thought is you've got it exactly backwards. What you need is justification to keep her on life support. And there may be some disagreement as to that point, but there's no disagreement, evidently, that this was not her wish. So we are violating her wish. So she's dead, so we're not doing any harm to her. And I'm not going to be crazy bent out of shape about an individual case, which is why I spoke about the potential precedents that we're setting with things like this.
Right. I get what you're saying, but is the life growing inside her not justification enough to keep her alive?
No, it isn't. That fetus is completely dependent on her
Right.
body. Okay, that's a biological reality. The fetus's life its interests are inseparable from the life of the interests of the woman carrying it. Okay,
Right.
biologically,
That's the point.
it's dependent on that. Okay, the woman that's carrying it is dead. Only her body
Her brain is dead, right?
That's dead. Brain dead is dead. Okay.
It's brain dead, but if her body can sustain life,
So
why not give...
basically, you're okay with using human bodies as incubators. That your thought of a woman is that she's nothing but an incubator for any potential fertilized egg that she happens to have in her body. Is that accurate? That's what you're saying.
Well, that's your position, is that she's nothing but a vessel to hold a fetus, but my position is the fetus has a life, and
that is,
if you take
that
what
ended.
you're basically saying is it's okay to not give the fetus a chance at life.
Yes.
Yes.
How is that even rational?
Because that was her wish.
Well, what about the wish of the child?
There is no wish of the child.
It doesn't have a wish.
And by the way, it doesn't matter because...
Well, how do you know?
And it doesn't...
I mean, it's a child.
John, if she had a 2-year-old who needed an organ transplant and she was the only one that can do it, is it legal, should it be legal to force her to donate that organ?
No, but what's the difference between a 2-year-old and
That's it. The 2-year-old is a person by all definitions, so we've taken personhood completely out of the issue. And so if you cannot force her to donate an organ to her 2-year-old, you cannot force her to maintain a pregnancy. This isn't about killing a fetus. It is about whether or not you are going to terminate a pregnancy. It is not the woman's fault that a terminated pregnancy is going to result in a dead fetus. She has every right to her body, and your position seems to be that of many other pro-choice individuals, which is if a woman is pregnant, she suddenly loses all rights with regard to her uterus for that period, and that is absurd.
Well, I guess the question is who decides rights? I mean, does the child not have a right? If a 2-year-old
the woman
can't defend their right for life, does that mean that they don't have a right for life?
If the 2-year-old,
what's the difference between a 2-year-old and a person inside of a womb?
John, John, that's my point. If the 2-year-old doesn't have that right, why should something that's not a child have that right? You're giving extra special rights to a fetus.
No,
What's your
I'm saying they have equal
No,
rights.
no, they don't.
No, they don't.
No, okay,
No matter what,
John,
right?
John, the 2-year-old and the fetus have equal rights, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, then if the 2-year-old doesn't have a right to use the mother's body, neither does the fetus, and your argument is done.
No, that's wrong.
Why is that
If
wrong?
the
Why is it
mother
wrong?
can sustain the life of the child.
No, this is about equal rights. You just said these two should have equal rights. If the 2-year-old does not have a right to use its mother's body, then the fetus doesn't have that right either. You said the rights were
That's
equal.
That's completely different. The 2-year-old is already outside of the
It
mother.
doesn't
Exactly.
matter. It doesn't matter. You said they had equal rights.
To life, not for special treatment.
No.
I think-
This
No.
was equal rights. You're offering special rights, and you haven't offered
Look,
any justification for
Look,
it. But
if your life is contingent on you being hooked up to my body, then I have a right to say no to that.
Right, but that's
Right?
different. You have to volunteer to donate an organ or something like
That's
that.
right.
That's
and you
right.
have to volunteer to continue
remain
a pregnancy. If you don't volunteer to continue the pregnancy, you have a right to terminate it.
who are you to force anybody to stay pregnant?
Well, I'm not trying to force anybody to do anything.
Yes,
I'm
you
just
are.
Yeah, you are.
Yes, you are. If you're claiming that a fetus has this special right to force to force a woman to remain pregnant, then you are advocating for forcing women to remain pregnant.
No, it's
So you don't want to force women to remain pregnant.
force. It's not about force. It's
It
not
is
like
about
being
Yeah, it
forced
is about
to
It
get
is.
pregnant.
It is about force,
It's just-
John. Are you willing to allow women to terminate pregnancies?
It's not my choice to allow anyone to do anything. If they choose to terminate their own pregnancy, if they're cognitive and they can make that decision, they'll have to live with the consequences of that.
Great. So
But
you're
to say
pro-choice
that-
then. So you're
But
pro-choice
to say
then.
that a
And why are we
child doesn't
having?
have rights just because it's in the womb, a right to live, aside from the mother's
It has every right to
opinion.
live. It doesn't have the right to live at somebody else's expense.
Well, if they're dead, what's the expense?
Well, now, see, this is an area, a very subtle area, where I may actually disagree with Jen slightly, because if the woman is dead, and she's brain dead, then we are not violating her wishes because she no longer has wishes. But my objection is that her wishes were clearly stated beforehand, and this sets a precedent that what you want to have happen to you after you're dead can be trumped by what somebody else wants, and I find that to be a violation as well.
Yeah.
Now, I'll fully acknowledge that there's a subtle difference, and we're not in this particular case about who's being
Or
harmed.
did the woman specifically say, "Hey, if I'm on life support
Yes.
and I'm
Yes.
pregnant, take me off"?
No,
No.
she said
Even though my baby might have a chance to live, or did she just say, "I don't want to be on life support"?
she said
There's
she
a
didn't want to
difference
be on
there.
life support, but her husband, who is her next of kin and who can carry out her wishes, also said she needs to be removed from life support.
He's the
But
one
it's
that.
not his decision.
Yes,
Yes, it
it's
is.
Her, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
That's what happens.
That's what next of kin means. You can make those decisions for people.
Those are where the legal decisions. That's
Life
the
or
process.
death decisions, though?
Yes, you can pull the plug on somebody. If you're the next of kin, you have
Right
the.
on her, but there's another person involved.
No, there's
no,
not.
there's not.
No, there's not.
So the baby's not a person?
No.
Why not?
Why is it?
Because it has human DNA. It's a person.
So what?
Is it in my phone book? Does it have a social security number? Have we afforded it any rights at all other than the special rights you want to give it over a 2-year-old?
So if a person doesn't have a phone number or a social security number, they're not a person?
I'm offering out possibilities. My
giving you a contrast. I'm
my
telling you
point,
that.
my point, John, was that
What makes it a person and not a person?
John, my point is that personhood doesn't matter, and you've already agreed to that by acknowledging that the 2-year-old who is a person doesn't have a right to use a body. So I don't care whether you think it's a person or not. That's a separate issue.
No, I believe that if you have human DNA, you're a person.
Okay,
You have
my
a right to
fingernail
life.
has human DNA. Is it
Yeah.
a person?
What's that?
My fingernail has human DNA. Is it a person?
It's a part of your person.
Is it a person? Your definitions are sloppy.
even-
Your
that's not-
definitions, John, are sloppy. Your thinking is sloppy. And you've already conceded this idea of equal rights and that personhood's irrelevant. So I don't know why
No,
we
you
need to
twisted that in a different context.
Yes, yes,
Matt.
I twisted it by getting you to acknowledge the contradiction in your position. How clever of me.
I think it's contradictory to say that a mother a mother has a right to life, but her child, which is in her, doesn't have a right to life because
That's not what we said.
That's not what we said.
That's not what we said. I grant every fetus on the planet a right to life. It just doesn't have that right, the right to use another person's body to persist.
Well, then, if you believe every fetus has the right to life, then why are you for abortion?
Because abortion is not the termination of a fetus, it's the termination of a pregnancy.
What? Well, if you're not terminating a fetus, what are you terminating?
The pregnancy. You know what they call the late term termination of a pregnancy? A C-section, and the fetus gets to live.
Yeah, or an
But
induction.
that's not killing the fetus. The
That's
fetus has
correct. I
life
just said
until
that.
Yes.
Congratulations,
Aborted.
John.
Yes.
You've spotted the obvious once again. Have you got anything else, John? Because there's other callers, and I don't think we're going to get anywhere.
Well, I was just like for you to acknowledge the fact that you said every fetus has a right to life.
Yes.
That you're for abortion.
No,
if it's not a fetus, if it's not a person, why does it have a right to life?
Why do you keep saying
You're
that
contradicting yourself.
John, why do you keep simply saying that I said it had a right to life when I specifically says it has a right to life, but not at the expense of anybody else, which is the same right to life that all the rest of us have. I don't have the right to knock somebody out, hook somebody up as a filter, and let them filter my blood for me, even if it sustains my life. I don't have that right. And I'm not going to go affording special rights to fetuses just because someday they could possibly be a person.
They already are a person, according
No,
to
they're not.
their DNA.
Okay, and I don't really care. I don't really care if it's in there writing poetry and you're convinced that it's a person. That doesn't change the rights issue of bodily rights.
Well, it seems like you're in serious contradiction about what you deem,
No.
who you deem has rights and who doesn't.
No, actually, you're the one who's contradicting yourself. Matt and I are completely consistent about what we're saying. Is that if there's
No, you're consistently saying it, but you're not consistent with your argument. You're
Oh, no,
contradicting
it's
what
completely
you,
consistent.
Who you deem to have rights and who doesn't.
No.
If it's a person that has rights,
that's not
but
the
if it's
argument. The argument
John.
is that a woman has the right to let a fetus use her body to sustain itself or not. That's her choice.
John,
but the fetus doesn't have a right to live.
It has a right to live. It
If
doesn't
she
have a
wants
right
it to.
to live at the expense of somebody else. Do you have a right to use somebody else's body to sustain your life? Do you,
I'm
John?
already
Do you,
born, no.
John? Do you, John, right now have a right to use somebody else's body without their consent to sustain your life?
Not after I'm born, no.
Why is it different after you're born? Isn't that granting special rights to the preborn?
No, because what right
John,
do you have to
John,
abort a fetus?
John, that was a yes/no question. So you say
Right,
you
well, I'm
you
drawing
say
a
John,
parallel, so
stop.
you can see
John,
how it's-
for Christ's sake, stop interrupting me. You said that you have this right. You don't have this right after you're born. That's what you said. And that is a clear acknowledgement that there's a difference between the right you have after you're born and the right you have before you're born, is it not?
But it's different situations.
John, it
is what
doesn't
I'm
matter.
trying-
Would you
Matt,
answer
is
my
what I'm trying to
fucking
say.
question? Yes or no, is there a difference in the rights you're attributing to people before they're born than after they're born?
But there's a difference in the
John, you're
dependency.
done. There is a difference. You're sitting there denying it all the time. I'm not. There's no special. But that right only exists after I'm born, or that limitation only exists after I'm born. You have an untenable position because of the contradictions, and I'm sorry that we tricked you into recognizing it to the point where you couldn't even answer a simple yes/no question that was, by the way, a direct restatement of what you had already said. You need to think your stuff through a little further, because that was horrible.
I don't think he's going to think it through any further.
I don't either. It's a baby. I don't need to think. It doesn't think. I'm not going to think for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Patrick in Minneapolis, how are you?